Okay, I need everyone to sit down. I need you to sit down because I have a confession to make. And it is significant and it is going to change the way you understand this channel forever. I read a heterosexual romance. I know. This is a BL only channel. You come here for the boys loving content. I have been a BL reader for ages now. We're talking years of my life at this point. And yeah, I simply never thought of reading a heterosexual romance before. But Lady Crystal is a man showed up, and I want to be very clear about something. I do not regret it. Not even a little bit, not even a single percentage. Because this manhwa, this beautiful, warm, absolutely unhinged in the best way possible Korean manhwa, broke my years long BL only streak, and I am standing here to tell you it was absolutely worth it. This is Rara Reads. We are going to talk about Lady Crystal as a man. We are going to talk about it for a very long time. Let's go. First things first. What is Lady Crystal as a man? It is a Korean manhwa, a webtoon, a comic, whatever you want to call it, based on a novel written by Jeon Eona, with art by No Known, I think. The original title is something like this. I don't know. I don't can't speak Korean properly. You can read it at the Pass or Kakao Webtoon in English. It is ongoing, I think. It's stunning, by the way. It is so pretty to look at. Like, I love the artwork. And the premise, we can just ask ourselves what if both of them are lying? Let me set the scene. The Rotori family is a noble house with a very specific and very horrifying rule: only one son may become an heir, and all other male born children either die or win the succession war. Girls, by contrast, are kept alive. They are not heirs, so they are not threats. Crystal Rotori was born a boy. His mother, an illegitimate concubine, no power, no protection, looked at this rule and made a decision. What every mother would, right? She hid her son. She raised him in a secluded annex of the estate, told everyone he was a sickly child who could not go out, dressed him in girl's clothing, gave him a girl's name, and kept him tucked away from the succession bloodbath happening in the rest of the house. Crystal grew up female presenting, reading his books, tending his class, living in an extremely small and extremely protected life. His mother gave him a medicine as a present of sorts to keep his physical development more ambiguous, to help maintain the illusion, and his world was his annex, his nanny, his two companions, Hans and Julia. That was it. That was his whole entire life. But his mother died. Possibly murdered, at least that's what the story implies, and Crystal was left with a small chosen family. His secret and one goal: survive long enough to leave the Rotori family entirely. Get out, disappear, live somewhere nobody knows his name, a quiet, normal life, somewhere far from succession wars and noble politics. And he was so close. But his father happened. His father, who has never once visited the annex, who has never once tried to meet the daughter he supposedly has, decides it's time to marry Lady Crystal off to an old man. The plan: Crystal attends the meeting disguised as himself, his friend poses as him, the Lady Crystal, for his father's inspection. They discover how bad the situation is, and Crystal, cornered, running out of options, not having a single powerful ally in the world, does something genuinely audacious. He proposes marriage to Grand Duke Illian Pentrine. Illian Pentrine is the cold, powerful Grand Duke of the North, fierce in reputation, black hair, black eyes, pale as winter, politically opposed to Rotori family, someone Crystal calculated would almost certainly say no. My man said yes. And Crystal escapes to the Pentrine estate, thinking, temporary, I'll stay a few months, we will arrange a quiet divorce, Alien will get whatever political benefit comes from this arrangement. I will get my freedom and enough money to disappear with Hans, Julia, Nanny. Everyone will be happy, clean, simple. What Crystal does not know, Alien Pentrine is a woman. Yes, that's the other secret. Alien Pentrine, the terrifying Grand Duke of the North, the cold and supposedly cruel ruler who commands armies and makes nobles sweat, is a woman. Her older brother, the original heir, he died in an avalanche. The father, with no other options and kind of insane, cut her hair, dressed her in man's clothing, and trained her as the new duke. So here we are. Lady Crystal is a man, the Grand Duke is a woman. They get married. Neither of them knows about the other's secret. Not yet. On their first night as a married couple, Illian sits Crystal down and tells him, very seriously, that consumption of the marriage, con- I, the night time of the marriage will not be happening. Crystal internally, what? Are we already breaking up? Did I escape the arranged marriage to an old man just to get immediately divorced? And then Alien whispers, I'm sorry, lady. I'm an idiot. I'm impotent. A lie, obviously, but in this moment, they're both lying and both trying to protect each other from the truth. And the dramatic irony is so perfectly constructed that the reader, he just gets to sit with it gleefully while the characters fumble around each other with all their secrets. And it's so fun to read. Now, and this is the thing that makes Lady Crystal as a man different from your every gender bender story you have read. Ilian discovers Crystal's actual gender very early on. Not after 100 chapters of dramatic build up, not after an enormous revelation arc that requires 3 months of reading. Early, Crystal falls ill and loses consciousness, and Ilian discovers the truth while taking care of him. He is smart. He went directly to the source for confirmation, if you get what I mean. That's it. A few chapters in. Comparatively, she knows. And rather than everything exploding dramatically, rather than that betrayal, that confrontation, and the secret driving them apart, Alien pulls Crystal aside and makes a deal. When the snowstorm clears, we can divorce quietly and you can start your new life. I will give you everything you need. I will do this for you. She is decent to him before she loves him, and that matters enormously because nobody was kind to Crystal apart from her immediate family. And of course, they fall in love before the snowstorm ends because, of course, it was not exclusively stated that they fall in love with each other. It is a slow burn that hits you in the face, and it's so slowly falling. It's wonderful to read. And before we get further into character dynamics and the story and all of that that makes this manhwa extraordinary, I need to talk about the art. Oh my god. Because the art is doing something that I've genuinely never seen in this genre before, and I cannot, in good conscience, keep going without making you understand why it matters. The art in Lady Crystal is a man is beautiful, your full color European ambience aesthetics, the kind of line work that makes you want to screenshot every single damn panel because it's so pretty. The coloring is luminous, the character designs are drop dead gorgeous. If you open this manhwa on art alone, you would read it for art alone. But here is the thing that actually got me, the thing I genuinely couldn't believe. As the story progresses, as Crystal begins to stop taking the medicine his mother gave him, as his body slowly begins to change the way it was always going to without suppression, the art changes with him, gradually, subtly, panel by panel, chapter by chapter. His face, which in the early chapters is so soft and childlike, and so genuinely gender ambiguous that you understand completely why everyone around him would believe he was a girl. That face, that height, slowly and slowly over time acquires something, an angularity at his jaw, a slight shift in the structure of his features. Nothing dramatic, nothing that makes him suddenly looks like a different character, but with something real. He goes from a child whose gender reads as genuinely uncertain to a person with a beautifully, unmistakably feminine face who is also quietly, identifiably a man. And the translators, I want to shout out to the translators specifically here because they use they them pronouns for Crystal or for the Duke early in the chapters because his gender is established, before his gender established, I think. That choice is deliberate, that choice is careful, that is a team that understood what the story is doing and honored it in translation. Because here is what I think this manhwa is actually doing with Crystal's appearance and identity. Crystal, by the end of the story, when everyone around him knows he's a man, prefers to go by Crystal, not Chris. Still, he chooses Crystal. He knows who he is. He's comfortable in his femininity, comfortable in his masculinity, comfortable being both and neither and entirely himself. He wore a wedding dress at his wedding and he looked incredible. Oh my god, he looked so precious. Like, I would understand why the Duke would fall for him and take care of him for the rest of his life. Why he would call this man, this beautiful, pretty, cute man, his fairy tale. And yeah, he did know and he loved himself enough to wear what he wanted. He was not ashamed for it. And that is a kind of character writing that I was not expecting when I picked this manhwa. Let me talk about Crystal as a character because I think the easy read of Crystal is sheltered, naive, innocent, grew up in one building, doesn't know how the world works, needs to be protected. And yeah, these things are partially kind of true. Crystal did grow up in an annex, his world was small. He has a childlike wonder about things that most people take for granted. He is, in many ways, luminously pure in his reactions to the world around him. He is kind of dumb. Not because he's stupid, not because everything is new to him, but here is what I want you to understand about Crystal Pentarine, that softness is not a product of his circumstances, it is who he is. His circumstances were terrible. Let's not minimize that. He grew up hidden, medicated, knowing that if his secret got out, he might die. My man, he had a panic attack of sorts the moment he thought of stepping out of his garden when he was a kid. And yeah, his mother died, possibly killed. He spent his entire childhood in one building with no access to the outside world. His father never once came to see him. His brothers were engaged in a succession war that had nothing to do with him and could have destroyed him anyway. A person could come out of those circumstances bitter, closed, afraid. Many people would. Crystal is kind, Crystal is curious, Crystal looks at every new thing the Pantarine state offers him. A window with a different view, a meal he's never had, a person he's never met, and approaches that with his open, wondering quality that makes you want to protect him desperately, while also knowing he does not need protection because the kindness is not fragility. He's not helpless. He is very brave. This is someone who, with literally no allies, no power, no political standing, cornered by circumstances that could have destroyed him, proposed marriage to the most intimidating Grand Duke in the country just to buy himself an exit. That is not helplessness. That is someone who has calculated his options with a clear head and decided to bet on himself with the only card he has. Crystal is brave in the specific way that quiet people are brave. Not loudly, not dramatically, but consistently. He keeps choosing to keep going. He keeps choosing to reach towards the life he wants, even when the odds are completely stacked against him. And the thing that makes me fall genuinely, helplessly, hopelessly fond of him is this. He's loving. He is so loving. He loves his people. Hans, Julia, his nanny, with a fullness that makes absolutely clear that they are his family, the only family that will ever choose him, that actually chose him. He shows up for them, he worries about them, he carries them in his new strange life in the Pantrine state. Crystal Rotori is not a passive man character. He is the most kind of kinds. And then there is Illian. I said at the beginning of this video that I broke my Below streak for this manhwa, and if you had told me the reason I would break that streak is a female lead who reads so completely like a classic cold northern Duke ML that multiple readers initially thought that they were reading, I would have believed you immediately. Because Alien Pentrine is that character. The cold exterior, the dark coloring, the fearsome reputation that people whisper about, the cruel man with an icy heart that everyone warns Crystal about before he arrives, and then Crystal arrives, and Ilian, who has been carrying her own secret, her own loneliness, her own carefully constructed persona for her entire adult life, meets this luminous, confusing, incredibly kind person who just wandered into her castle and her life and started being warm at her. She does not know what to do with it. Here is what I love about Ilian. She has this quality that the best cold characters have, where the coldness is not who she is, it's what she learned to be. The warm is underneath, and Crystal slowly, steadily reaches it, and you get to watch Ilian experience kindness she was not expecting and does not know how to refuse it. Also, and the spoiler thread confirms this, by the end of the story, Ilian is described as having all the energy of a classic stamina-less male lead. She teases Crystal endlessly. She's the one who has to be told to control herself after they get married. Crystal has to negotiate with her. This is a reversal of the typical dynamic done so well, and it does not feel like a gimmick. It just feels like they are. They suit each other. The softness and the cold, the openness and the reserve. And because the gender reveals happens early, because Alien knows from the start, the story gets to spend its chapters on what happens after the secret, which is so much interesting than the secret itself. Okay, let me talk about the supporting cast because the supporting cast is supporting. Because since manhwa does something with its secondary characters that I want more manhwas to do, which is it makes them people. Hans and Julie are Crystal's people, his companions from the annex, his childhood, his whole world. They come with him to the Pentrine state. They are loyal to him with the completeness that the story treats as simply true, not as something that needs to be dramatically earned or tested. They just love Crystal and they show up for him and they're delightful. And the nanny, Crystal's nanny from his childhood, who was his mother's friend and stayed to raise him after his mother died. This is the woman who was with him through everything, who helped maintain the secret, who protected him when no one else did. And of course, are we going to talk about the Pentrine State's characters? Jenny, Damien, Milo, and Milo. These four lovable, complete idiots who are always supporting the Duke, who can't help themselves but fall helplessly for Crystal and be very, very, very suspicious of him when he first arrives, but slowly and steadily, as the Duke falls for Crystal, they too fall for him. And it's so beautiful to read because these characters are not obstacles. They are not there to create drama. They are not going to betray Crystal or Alien or become a source of conflict. They're simply, genuinely, quietly, consistently his family or her family. And the scenes between them just makes me want to read a million chapters of this because I want you to know here is what Lady Crystal as a man understands about storytelling that a lot of manhwas don't. Domestic warmth is enough. Fluffy slice of life moments with people who genuinely love each other are enough. You do not need manufactured drama and secret betrayals and artificially extended misunderstandings to make a story compelling. You just need characters that the readers care about, being themselves in a scene together. Crystal and Indy. Oh my god, I'm speaking for so long that I'm stumbling over my words. Let me reiterate. Crystal and Illian having their first real conversation, Crystal and Hans navigating the state together, Crystal and Jenny eating pie together, Crystal and Milo having a talk about the identity reveal together, and all of this, all of them existing to this new life, finding their footing, building something that actually feels like home. I would read a million chapters of those two just being together. I mean that. Put Crystal and Illian in a room, give them something mundane to do, and I will read it all. I will just give me the domestic scenes, give me the slow build of warmth between those two people, and yeah, I love this. I want to make an argument, a real one, about why Lady Crystal is a man works so well in a genre that is full of stories that could technically be described the same way: gender bender, historical fantasy, cross dressing romance, but that don't hit the same. The argument is this manhwa is not complicated, and that's not a weakness. It is the entire point. So many stories in this genre, and I love this genre, genuinely rely on withheld information to pay attention. We don't know if the love interest will find out. We don't know how they will react. We are waiting for the secret to detonate. We are spending chapters and chapters and chapters in a state of dramatic suspense, wondering when the other shoe will drop. And here is the absolutely a version of Lady Crystal that does that. That keeps Crystal's gender a secret from Alien for 50 chapters, that builds the tension slowly and milks every interaction for dramatic irony, that saves the reveal for a big confrontation scene. That's not this manhwa. Alien finds out early, she handles it with grace, she tells Crystal, I will protect you and we will arrange a divorce. And then the whole rest of the story is what happens when the two people were both surviving alone decide slowly and tentatively to stop being alone. I love how Crystal, who is supposed to be this naive, innocent kid, finds Alien's secret that she's a woman quickly the moment she gets a hint, and there is no wasted time on this particular secret reveal. And this is such a better story. Because, yeah, the withheld secret is not the interesting part. The interesting part is what comes after. And all of this, I love how Crystal is so open and kind and unguarded, and how Alien is so warm with Crystal. Yeah, that's the story, and it works because the story trusts itself enough to tell it without manufactured complications. It's not complicated, it's clear, and that clarity, that confidence the storytelling has in the characters themselves being interesting enough without constant drama is what makes it extraordinary. Okay, I want to talk about something that I did not expect from this manhwa: the queerness. Or is it queerness? I said at the start of the video that this is not a BL only. This is a BL only channel, and this is not a BL manhwa. It's a story where a man and woman come together, fall in love, voila, happy hunting. But watch what the story is actually doing. Crystal Totori is a man who was raised as a girl, who has spent his entire life female presenting, who, at the end of the story, when everyone knows he's a man, still chooses Crystal as his name, still chooses the dresses, still exists in the space between what the world expected of him and what he actually is, and does so with a comfort and an unashamedness that reads as incredibly queer. I am so sorry for this awful pronunciation. Not because the manual labels it, but because Crystal's relationship with his own identity, with his name, his presentation, his sense of self is so thoroughly drawn. And that's a very conscious decision. And then Illian, a woman who has spent her entire adult life presenting as a man, who leads with the energy and demeanor of a cold northern Emil, who is so thoroughly coded masculine in a role that readers thought they were reading BL. Her identity is equally layered. The story does not make her long to return to a feminine presentation. She is who she is. She becomes herself through necessity and then discovered that this self was real. These are two people whose gender identities are very complicated, whose presentation don't map neatly onto expectation, whose relationship exists entirely outside of what anyone would have expected for either of them. And the story lets them be happy. It lets them stay who they are. It does not demand that at the end they shed the identities they have built and return to the correct version of themselves. They ought to cut their hair or grow out their hair. Crystal wears the wedding dress at the wedding. He chooses Crystal. He is a man comfortable enough with himself that none of the choices feels like compromise. And this subtle cureness running through this entire manhwa, and it's done with such care that it does not feel like a subtext. It does not have its own overwhelming presence. It feels like the text. And yeah, which is probably why a BL only channel founder fell in love with it completely. Okay, so I have been going for a very long while and I want to end with this. Lady Crystal is a man made me feel something that the best stories make you feel, which is warm. Not excitement, not tension, not suspense, warm. That specific feeling of watching characters you care about be kind to each other in ways they didn't know they needed and can barely articulate and are clearly going to keep doing that for the rest of their lives. Chef's Kiss. It's a story about a person who survived something hard and came out of it kind anyway. About someone who armored themselves against the world and then met someone soft enough to make the armor feel necessary. About two people whose lives were both constructed around lies and secrets, finding each other and deciding slowly, tenderly, with a lot of awkward honesty to stop lying to each other. It is about Hans, Julia, Jenny, Damien, Milo, Mel. It is about a small chosen family that followed their person to a new place and made it home. About a man named Crystal who wears dresses because he wants to and says his name with the quiet confidence of someone who chose it, who owns it, who is not going to let anyone take it from him. I'm not going to stop reading BL, by the way. I want to be clear about that. This channel is not changing. The boys who love boys are not going anywhere. But I am also not going to forget Lady Crystal is a man for a very, very, very long time. Read it. Go right now. After this video ends, go read it. It will do something good to you. This has been Rara Reads. Like, subscribe, whatever, blah blah blah. Drop in the comments whether you have read this one, what it did to you, and I will see you next time. Lady Crystal, Lady Rotori, Lady Pentrine, just Crystal, goodbye. You have been a good one.